We're running a little behind, so I'll try my best to get us wrapped up around 10:30. And I know Hunter and a couple of other people have some great sessions starting at 11. I am honored to be here with you. It's moving, and I can tell you that I learned about the organization in my partnership with Beiersdorf, but before starting my consulting business, was in dermatology for 25 years, working for another pharmaceutical company, but seeing patients with ichthyosis and all kinds of other diseases, but being in and out of the dermatologist office for a long time. So I really feel like I can relate to the specialty, and it's amazing the work that's being done for this disorder. As Janet mentioned, I got involved more with FIRST 2 or 3 years ago when we started with a Strength Finder session to help equip patients with ichthyosis to build some resilience, build some confidence in what they bring to the table. It's not just about the skin. And those sessions, Hunter was one of the first participants in the first round. In that group, we had Shilpa was in that group as well. I think she's here. But we had such a great experience, and it was 3-part. They got an assessment, and if you haven't ever done it, it's a book called The Strength Finder, and you buy the book and the assessment's in there, and it helps surface what you're naturally gifted in. And so to really help the folks, the young adults in that session virtually, understand that the great things they bring to the table in any aspect of their life, and looking beyond the skin. So we had a really good first round, and then we did a second round to go a little deeper, and the second round sort of prompted how do I advocate for myself? How do I overcome some of the things that are really hard in my life? And so we had some good success there. It was all virtual, unfortunately, because being in person, seeing Hunter today and Shilpa this morning was just to hug them and to just see them in person was so moving. So that's where we started. So when I got the opportunity last year, as Janet was preparing with Chris and Lisa for this conference, to take on this topic, I jumped at the chance. So I'm really, again, very honored to be here with you guys today. I'm going to start us off. It's a two-part session. The first part is around being self-aware. So that's where we're going to start. So for adults, I see lots of parents in the room. I see some kids, some young adults. So I think that the gamut, I think this will apply to all of you, and I really tried to think about that when I put together what I put together. But the first part's on self-awareness. The second part is on advocacy for yourself. How do you get what you want? And you guys aren't alone. This is tough for most people out there. In my consultancy, I work a lot with leaders in organizations and all kinds of industries. And, leaders that have been leaders for 20 years don't do this well. So I'm really excited about the topic. I'm going to kick us off with, I think, one of the most motivational stories that I think I've seen in my leadership career, and it has to do with a man named Eric trying to scale Mount Everest. Summit, sorry.
Mount Everest, the tallest point on Earth. For a sighted person, climbing Mount Everest is one of the greatest physical challenges on the face of the Earth. Ever since I went blind, it's been a dream in the back of my mind to climb the world's tallest peak. When we started thinking about climbing Everest, a lot of the Himalayan experts sort of came out of the woodwork and said I'd be a liability up there, that I'd kill myself, I'd kill my team. There are always going to be people who think you're crazy, and then there are also going to be those who do share your vision.
The truth of the matter is Everest was a very, very difficult climb. It was dangerous.
I knew that only 10% of the people who try Everest make it to the top, and for every 6 people who summit, I've heard one dies.
First time I met Eric was at a trade show.
He asked me, he said, have you ever thought of climbing Everest?
He said he never climbed Everest, but he wanted to.
PV is probably one of the best leaders that I've ever seen in real life.
Probably one of his strongest attributes is his energy and positive attitude, and he would never have people do things that he wouldn't do himself.
A great leader is not afraid to share leadership.
As a blind person, I knew I could never get to the summit of Everest alone. And what would get me to the top wasn't necessarily technology. What would get me to the summit were the people that I surrounded myself with.
Most teams are torn apart by egos. There were some people I wanted to bring on the expedition that I decided not to bring on the expedition because I knew they could not be good team members.
PV wanted people who knew the Himalayas well, who knew Everest well.
But equally important, I feel, was getting a series of climbers that Eric has climbed with in the past that may or may not be great Himalayan people, but Eric trusted. I think in the success of an expedition, trust is the most important ingredient. Without trust, there's nothing.
If you can unify people with one vision, it becomes that rallying point, and it becomes a team that's unstoppable.
We were all committed to a single purpose, and that single purpose was helping Eric get to the summit of Mount Everest. So there was a big meaning to the expedition. We knew that unless Eric could climb through the Khumbu Icefall effectively, quickly, and safely, that he stood no chance of climbing Mount Everest.
My first trip through the Icefall was the hardest day of my life in the mountains. Every step could kill me.
Well, 13 hours through the Icefall is terrible. He was thoroughly exhausted, as tired as I've ever seen a climber in his life. There was blood pouring out of Eric's nose. It was all over his clothes where he had been hit in the face and almost fell in a crevasse. He collapsed inside the tent when I walked out, and the rest of the team was outside. I told him, this can't happen. Unless we can change this, unless we can get Eric through this thing faster, we might as well turn around and go home. Unbeknownst to me, Eric was listening to me. He wasn't asleep. And he told me later on, he says it was one of the most down periods of time in his life.
I told Eric, do you think you can do this? And he's like, I don't know. And I said, well, if you don't think you can, you're not going to,
I forced myself to sit in front of my tent and envision myself and my team on the top, to actually believe myself forward.
Giving him more time and practice, he got better.
A lot of my improved success had to do with my teammates. They began to understand how to tap certain things and give me information, and how to communicate real succinctly.
Unclip that ATC. Nope, not that way, Bubba. There you go. Before you knew it, we were speeding through there. We were passing people, which was cool. Sighted people, other teams.
On summit day, he actually made it from base camp, past Camp 1, all the way to Camp 2 in less than 5 hours, which even for a sighted climber is an incredible feat. We set up a nightly tent meeting because it was a very effective way to get a lot of communication across. And I'd ask people, do you have problems? Are there concerns? What do you think? I think if you really pay attention and give people credit and don't belittle people and you just listen to what they say, it's really effective.
So if I do have to turn back, I'm just curious. what's the plan? I'll feel totally bad because I'll ruin probably someone or one or two person summit day.
This whole thing's about you.
This whole thing's about you, man.
Hopefully everybody realizes that we've got a prerogative here, and that's to get Eric to the top.
Above Camp 3, you enter what's called the death zone. It's where your body has stopped acclimatizing. You got to get to the summit now as quickly as you can.
I'm nervous.
What are you nervous about?
No reason. No reason. It's not like we're going to be climbing to the top of the world.
Our plan is to leave Camp 4 around 8:30 p.m. and climb all through the night. If things work out, we hope to make summit by late morning.
It's dark. For the first time, we're kind of on Eric's turf.
Leaving on summit day, we got up, we're ready to go, everybody's feeling good. and I felt cold. The higher I got, the sicker I got, and it dawned on me that I had malaria. And I've had malaria 8 times. I caught it originally in Africa, and it keeps coming back when there's a lot of stress.
TV is coming down. He's feeling really bad. He's moving very slowly. He might need some help.
The goal of the expedition was not to have me summit. It was absolutely the most difficult decision I've ever made in my life. I had spent 2 years of my life working on this expedition, planning on this expedition, dreaming about standing with Eric at the summit.
And that night, he did an exceptional thing, you know, when he realized that if he kept going, he was going to be a liability. He's a great leader, and any leader knows when to step back.
When this storm came in really fast from the south,
We're still waiting for the weather, but weather is very bad.
All my planning, the one thing I forgot was to appoint an assistant team leader.
we were leaderless. Some of us wanted to go forward, some of us wanted to turn back. We're in a crisis. It's really amazing that when you really need it, leadership seems to spring from the most unexpected places. Because Kevin, our base camp manager, his job was to set up tents and organize gear and to do less glamorous things like clean the bathroom tents. He had taken it upon himself to understand these very complex weather patterns and charts and graphs that he was seeing over the internet.
Mike, I know you guys are in a storm right now. It's snowing, it's very windy, but from down here, it is clearing up. Just push forward. You guys are going to do great. You'll have good weather within the hour. Over.
It certainly helps to hear them say, hey, it's getting better, hang in there.
And as we're moving up about 28,000 feet, Brad yells down, the ropes are buried.
And the only way to get them out is to dig it out, and then you pull it. It sounds like an easy thing, but when it's crusted over and you're only breathing a third as much oxygen, it's a pretty tough job. Those guys probably really didn't need those fixed lines. They probably could have walked right past them and kept going, but they knew the rest of us needed them. And they knew Eric needed them.
I remember processing that, sitting at that one spot and thinking very clearly, if I do this, I'm not going to be able to go to the top. I remember that last tug of the rope, pulling it, and poof, I saw it shoot up to the south summit, and I remember just being flooded with joy.
I was so deflated because I knew that he had just sacrificed his own attempt for me.
He's like, I got to go though, right? I said, I want you to. That's why I did this.
I don't even think they questioned themselves. I think they just went out there and did it.
I watched him hop off the back of the south summit, and I thought to myself, there is no way I'm going to let that blind guy go stand on top of the world and have to hear about it the rest of my life. So I hopped right down behind him.
I can't believe it.
Good job. You did it, man. We're on top of the world. We are on top of the world.
When I heard he made it, and then I heard like everybody made it on the team, I was thinking, man, I could never have hoped for better success than that.
We all did it, and that's even cooler than if I went over and just did it on my own.
I don't think certain people are destined to lead and others are destined to follow. I think leadership is inside everyone. My team on Everest may not have been a bunch of superstars, but they stepped up and they led when it mattered. I don't think I'm very different from anyone else. I think everyone has a yearning for greatness inside them. That ability to reach out into uncertainty, in a sense, I guess, to climb blind.
It's so moving. I just thought it really applied to today's topic because he had to have an acute level of self-awareness and he had to be his own best advocate. So what are, if anybody's willing to, and I'll give you the microphone or you can shout it out, but what did he do, Eric, to advocate for himself, do you think? Any thoughts? Yes. The mic is coming. Everybody wants their moment with the mic.
So I believe he was his best advocate by just knowing his own body and knowing his own strengths and sharing that with his crew.
Absolutely. Great way to put that. He really knew himself, which is that self-awareness piece. And he even was humble enough to say, I'm nervous. I can't believe they all weren't nervous. I mean, I'm sure they were to some degree, but I'm no kind of climber. So that just makes me sweat looking at it. But, you know, he was able to say, can I do this or not? He understood his needs. He was able to ask for help. I mean, 19 other people rallied around him to get him up there. And did you notice the steadfast attitude of those teammates? Their goal wasn't for them to get to the top, it was to get who to the top? Eric. I mean, to surround yourself with people like that is unbelievable. That's a key part, I think, of self-advocacy. So when we think about that, we're going to start with ourselves, and that's why that's why the title is It Starts With Us, that self-awareness piece. So let's jump into that. Let's get a definition we can all sort of get our arms around, and it's this conscious ability or knowledge, of one's character. So we're aware of our character. That's pretty easy, I think. We know how we're built. It's the other stuff, our feelings, our motives, and our desires. That sometimes, do we really have an awareness of that? And while we might have an awareness of it, do other people see that? You might be surprised to know that 65% of the time, we do not see ourselves as others see us. That's, to me, when I learned that, unbelievable. And that's one of the biggest challenges adults have today, is any adult, whether you're, if you've got great skin or you don't have great skin, you have cancer or you're healthy, it doesn't matter. It is the statistic that applies to all of us. So how do we become more self-aware? I've got a poll for you. So if you have your phone, which I can't believe I'm saying that in a session because that's always the kiss of death for somebody in the front of the room. But if you have your phone, okay, there we go. Go to the WOVA app. And then if you'll go to this session, the 9:30 session on being your best advocate, there are 7 questions. We're going to do the first question, which I have for you, which is, how do you gain self-awareness today? How do you become aware of how you come across to other people? So has anybody having any trouble finding it? Okay. So go to the 9:30 session for today. It should be agenda. Yep, agenda. Go to the session. And should be, being your best advocate is the session. And then there should be a poll option.
So that one right there, Mom, just press on it. Yeah.
Polls, and it says 7 next to it. Just do the first question. We're going to do 7 questions today, but do this first question. Has anybody gotten in there and answered it? Yes? 40 answers. Oh, thank you. I can't even see that. All right. Oh, excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Okay, perfect. They're coming in. It's like the lottery here. Well, not really, but. Okay, so up to this point, this is great. 60 answers. It looks pretty split. It looks like half of us get feedback from our family, half of us get feedback from our friends, and 8 people were honest enough to say, I'm not sure. And that's a fair point. Hunter and I happened to be talking about this at breakfast today, and when you hear the word feedback, what do you start to think? Negative. Thank you. And what we talked about is, especially when you have a skin disorder, it's visible to everybody. The feedback, as she was saying, tends to be superficial. And they're looking at your skin. They're not looking beneath your skin. So if that's what you're getting, why would you ever ask? And by the way, for people that don't have skin diseases, the connotation of, feedback is only negative. It's never about when I'm doing something right. And so I get why people don't ask, but that is the single best way to get to know yourself and get to know how you're perceived by others. So I'm going to put 2 images up here next, and then I'm going to ask you a question about which one you relate with more. Okay? So here's the first image. A very delicious, ripe banana looking at himself in the mirror, or herself, I don't know why I said him, could be anything, and seeing a rotten banana. Okay, that's one image. Second image is a cat looking in the mirror and seeing a lion. So the first one, the banana, is more, I'm not sure I see myself as positively. I might be a little more critical. This one is, I am a star. I can do things that, I can do anything. So go to your second question, and let's see kind of where the room is on that, which is, do you relate more with the banana or the cat? And this could be good dinner or lunch conversation a little later. But let's see what you guys think about that, and I'll go to the results so I can see as the answers are coming in. Oh, that was fast. Oh, man. We are exactly split. No pun intended with the banana, but we are exactly split. Half of us say we see ourselves as the banana, half of us say we see ourselves as the cat. So the challenges are on both sides. If you saw yourself as a rotten banana when you look in the mirror, you're self-critical, you don't think you're good enough, the challenge with that is you may lack confidence. So to advocate for yourself is even trickier. If you see yourself as a lion and you're a cat, you might be at times overconfident. So sometimes that comes with risk, that you might think something is easier, faster, better than it really is. So there's challenges on both sides, but knowing that is really half the battle. So thank you for answering those questions. All right. So now I want you to think about, and I'm sorry, in the back when I looked at it this morning, I realized this is harder to see. So I will, sort of say some of these buckets here so you can participate. On your phone, like on your notes page, I debated bringing copies, but then I thought, did anybody want paper with them? So I didn't. But if you have paper on you, or you just want to answer it in the notes in your phone, here are some great prompts, or what we might say conversation starters, to get you thinking about who are you? What is it? And again, we don't really take a lot of time for that in our life. Adults, kids, but even adults, as you're further on in your career or your life, we don't often take time to reflect. So in your phone, in your notes pages, or writing it down, I just want you to think about the first category is things I'm good at. List one thing. There's 5 spots there, but list one thing, or think about one thing. The second is, what are you passionate about? One thing you're passionate about. The third question, what do you love most about you? So the statement is, what I love most about me. And again, we don't take time to think about these things. It's going through life. It's just busy. We all have stuff to do. It's hard to pause. So what do you love most about you? The next question, what I learned from my last failure. If you think about that, even if you're not writing it down somewhere, and we'll make this available so you have it when you have a little more time. I know I'm going a little quickly, but just kind of prompting you to think, what did you learn from your last failure? Maybe the learning was, it's okay to fail. Failing helps you learn. So if you never fail, what are you limiting yourself to? Maybe you haven't taken enough risk. Ways you can live your passion. What's one way you can live your passion? And then finally, a quote. Thinking about a quote that inspires you, that you could have sort of in front of you at, any time if you're feeling vulnerable. Okay, so of those 7 categories, what I'm going to do with our next polling question is ask you, and again, I know I rushed through that, so those are introspective questions that would take longer than 3 minutes. So we'll post this someplace that you can access it later so you can take your time with it. But the poll on question 3 for you guys is, which question was easiest for you to answer? So I'm curious, which one was easiest? What you love about yourself, what you learned from failure, what you're good at, what you're passionate about, how you live your passion. Which of those 7 was the easiest for you to answer? All right, we're up to 50. So we have so far with fifth, oh, it's okay, I'll let it go a little longer. We're up to 57. We have a tie between things you're good at and what you're passionate about. We have 17 in each of those, and a close third would be what I learned from my last failure. We had 15 of you say that. That's great. That whatever question that was easy for you to answer, awesome. That is building the awareness of yourself that you have. And again, knowing you is going to help you advocate more effectively when we get to that. Thank you for answering that. Okay, so the definition here of self-advocacy that we're going to go with is the ability to articulate your needs and make informed decisions about the support necessary to meet those needs. So that's how we're going to define self-advocacy. I'm going to tell you just a quick story. I'm going to try to make it quick, but one that might be relatable to many of you in the room who either have kids or is a kid. But my husband and I have 2 daughters, 15 and 12, so I'll take any prayers you have on raising teenage girls. Definitely not the easiest of times, but my oldest, or our oldest, is rather analytical, very black and white. She has a low level of empathy, which we're working on. I've identified that early because that is a life skill and you can learn it. I've seen adults learn it. But I want her to be equipped in her later life because to me it's a difference maker on how you build relationships. Just having friends, a significant other someday, being an employee or a boss. So they're both avid volleyball players, and my 15-year-old had her first season of high school volleyball this last year. So she was a freshman. So, of course, take yourself back to freshman year of high school. I mean, is that easy? No. In today's world, even harder, like with all the social media pressures and things. So she'd heard nothing but, great things about the program, except the coach. The coach wasn't so easy. The coach, we heard, was a little demanding and not very nice. So we went into the season knowing that, but good for her. She's played club volleyball for 5 years. She's had a variety of different coaches. I live in Texas, Dallas specifically. It's really a big deal in that town. Lots of kids play volleyball, and they liked it early, so that's great. She's had good experiences and bad. So she gets in. She's trying to figure out how to do well in her classes, how to navigate changing classes, 8 periods a day, and volleyball starts right when school starts. In fact, they pick the team the week before school starts. And so the season is right away. So we watched her go through the season, struggling with the unfairness of the coach. And you'll not be shocked by this, but the best players on the team, 2 of them, were the worst humans. Are you shocked? They did stupid things as teenagers. They didn't show up on time. They took a travel tournament to a city, and these 2 girls thought it would be fun and funny to not abide by the curfew. They were at Disney World for a tournament. Curfew was 11. They didn't show back up till 6 a.m. And so we all hear about this, parents, kids, everybody, and we thought, what's the coach going to do? We all had to sign code of conduct, or kids did. How am I going to behave? So we thought, okay, well, the coach is going to do the right thing and kick them off the team. Let me go back. They're the 2 stars of the team. So they get back. This was varsity. She made JV. So they get back, and we're all wondering because, of course, all the news and all the stories telling that's going on. It's crazy, all the drama. And their punishment, I know you'll be shocked, was they had to practice with the JV team for 1 week and be benched 1 game. Oh my gosh. So I have a 15-year-old looking at me going, well, that's not fair. How come they get away with that? And when do you start the life's not fair discussion? That throughout your life you're going to experience this. You will work somewhere where it won't be fair. You will have you'll date somebody who then won't be nice, and your best friend decides to date that person. You know, there's all kinds of things, but do I want to, like, you know, burst the bubble so early in life? Yes, right? Because yes, we're saying yes, it's worth bursting. Because I want to set her up for success. She's only got 4 years home with us, and then she'll be going to college somewhere. So I said it isn't fair and it's not right. So then begins the dialogue with the parents, and everyone's like, this is terrible, what are we going to do about it? And I said, well, we need to give the coach some feedback. How do you think that went over? Like a lead balloon. The parents were like, are you kidding? That's volleyball suicide. Your kid will never make the team if you do this. We have facts. We have 2 kids we know whose parents said something 3 years ago, and the coach kicked them off the team. So we're way into the season now, and it's driving me crazy because my authentic self is, I believe you should tell people, even if it's hard, because how do they know? And I thought in my heart of hearts, maybe she really doesn't get what this looks like for everybody else. How could she not? She's 40, she's had plenty of coaching experience, she should know better, but maybe she doesn't. Come to find out, since the 2 parents 5 years or 3 years prior gave feedback, not one person has ever confronted her. They would go around her. And so the school started not really tolerating that. Like, you'd go to the principal or the athletic director, who was her boss, and they're like, you need to tell her, and then it stopped. So fast forward, we get into the end of the season, and our daughter is like, I'm not playing next year. I can't play for this person. And that's heartbreaking to us, because it's your high school experience. We want her to have a great one. We wanted to, you know, even who cares what team you make, just play, because it's fun and all the kids come out and support them. So we were both, my husband and I were really thinking, well, what do we do to set a good example? So we arranged a meeting with the coach, knowing our daughter was probably not going to be crushed if she didn't make the team if this coach stays, because she couldn't believe the unfairness. And besides that, it was a very punitive environment. It was, you know, it's punishment all the time. You didn't do this, do that. You didn't do that, do this. You know, it was constant. I kind of looked at it as it was toughening her up, so I wasn't mad about that. It was this sort of the way she handled the situation. So we sat with her, and the parents were like, you're crazy. This is going to kill your, and we have a 6th grader who's going to go to this school, so who also likes volleyball. So we could be killing her career too. But we thought it was worthwhile, and we thought really modeling it for our kid. So we got in there, sat with her, and literally she gave us this, what? What do you mean, what? I can't believe that. What? You don't know all the facts. We did do some things with them that I can't share. Fair. However, the appearance of them missing 1 game and having to play with JV for a week was a joke. Like, why bother signing this code of conduct? So we went, and the principal was in there because we didn't trust that she wouldn't take our words and twist them. So anyways, I know this is a long one and I'm wrapping up here. We end that conversation, and she says, and I believed her, she seemed pretty sincere, thank you, no one has ever talked to me directly. I've heard things, but nobody's ever confronted me. Okay. She said, I'd really like it if Mackenzie would come and see me herself. And I said, not going to happen. I mean, there's zero trust there. And she goes, well, would she come with you? So we went home, and of course, the minute we said that to her, she's like, no way, man. I'm not putting myself out there like that. 2 weeks later, she thought about it, and we came back to it. We said, look, you're going to be helping other kids. If you can advocate for yourself as a player, even if you don't want to play again, which, fine, that's your decision, you will help these other kids, because she just sincerely wants to hear from an actual player. So we went in, of course I helped her get ready, and of course she's like, Mom, I got this, but I worried she would be, I mean, in this case, showing low empathy would be fine because she needed to be direct, but I kind of worried she'd, look around or look down or not answer the questions. And so we got in there, the coach was so nervous, she just kept talking, and I said, Coach Walls, I think you want to hear from Mackenzie, right? Oh, yeah, I do. Okay, what do you think? So we were in there for an hour and a half, and guys, I can tell you, this was in March of this year, and off season became much more tolerable. That coach is now asking for Mackenzie's feedback about how things are going. She's changed 3 things that we thought were not great last year. Now, still the decision on the star players we don't agree with, but we're moving in a good direction. And what she learned is nobody can advocate better for you than you. So a story about a 15-year-old, but I think a lot of us adults certainly could think about, are there things in our life, parents advocating with insurance companies or physicians or schools, just hearing about Hunter's advocacy work and, making sure you have life set up as easy as you can, knowing you've got limitations in some cases. So how do we do that? It's the process of communicating what we need by being assertive and speaking up. So I've got some real tangible ways that we can do that I'm going to introduce in just a second. It also creates a sense of independence. That's the other sidebar benefit of advocacy for yourself, is that you get confidence in, I can do this. I can speak for myself. I don't need my parent or my friend or my caregiver to speak up for me. I can do it myself. So if we look at the process, very quick and easy, it's 4 steps. We'll dig into each one. But before we dig into each one, of course, I have a question for you, a poll question. So now we are poll number 4. So if I can get you guys to get back on the poll, let me pull it up myself. Let's see. What part of the process, just hearing those words, is hardest for you? Understanding your needs, know what support helps, setting boundaries, or communicating assertively. What is the most challenging for you? All right, they're flying in. Okay, let's see, a few more. So, pretty clear winner. It's the 4th step, which is communicating assertively. That's what we all struggle with the most. Again, adults, kids, I see it everywhere. And it gets in your way of a lot of things in life, whether you're in the middle of your career, whether you're parenting, whether you're, whatever you're doing in your life, or if you're a kid getting through school. How is that going to help us? So this seemed to be the easiest for most, so I'll kind of skim through these first 2, but understanding your needs. What were Eric's needs? He was blind. He needed somebody to see the mountain for him. Did you hear the one guy say, we had to climb in the dark, and for the first time we saw what it felt like to be Eric? I mean, incredible. So knowing what you need is the first step. So what is it? Personally, professionally, what is your need there? And thinking about it in different areas of your life. The second step is being aware of the resources. And man, what a phenomenal foundation first is to help you there. And Beiersdorf, again, the company that's really here to support you, more, I love how Janet said, more than lotions and creams, supports you 360, which is partially what some of this today is about. So what support can help you? And for Eric, it took 19 other people. It's a significant venture that they, embarked on. 1 out of every 6 people die trying to climb with their sight. So incredible. The third one, this was in second place as the hardest one for us to do, setting boundaries and expectations. And I think here, what we may struggle with, I see it a lot, is how do you say no? How do you not just take it? When somebody says, well, just do this. Okay. No, that doesn't really help me. I'm looking for something different. So how do you say no when necessary? And how do you communicate your boundaries? What's acceptable for you? You may feel like, well, maybe that's self-centered. Well, that's part of being a self-advocate, is knowing what is your boundary. What will you accept as okay? Let's say you're a working person. I see lots of adults in the room, and your company says, no, you cannot take off Thursday and Friday for work for this amazing conference. You could choose to accept that or not accept that. Now, granted, that might result in I don't have a job, and maybe that's not possible, but learning how to stand up for yourself and say, that's just not okay. This is life-changing for me, my kid, my niece, my nephew, whomever you're here with. It's not worth missing. You can't, it's a big part of your life. So that's tough to do, and that respectful piece, I find, is hard for a lot of folks. But just because you could, like my lower empathy daughter might say, I'm not working then. I could just see her just quitting a job because it just doesn't fit. So you got to be respectful about it, but let's really, let's ask, I'm gonna ask a question about this one. This was the piece around setting boundaries and expectations. This poll question is around, what do you find is harder, saying no or establishing your boundaries? So it's I struggle most with either one of those. I don't think you guys can see the answers, can you? Or how people, oh, you can see it? Oh, cool, okay. Oh, sorry, you're probably like, why are you reading it to us? Like, we can see it, sorry. Okay, so interesting split here. Anybody surprised? It's really 50-50. That's interesting to me. I would have thought maybe the saying no would have been bigger. Okay, just good insight. And again, learning about yourself. What is it for you? Is it saying no or the boundaries piece? So the reason I thought this process would help us is so that you could compartmentalize it. I don't know about you guys, I'm more visual, and if I can see something in a picture, it sort of helps me put it together. So I'm hoping that will help you as well. All right, let's look at our last category in this last step of the process, which is communicating assertively. Here are 6 tangible ways if you happen to be lower on the assertive scale. So if you said, I have trouble saying no, my guess is you're lower on the assertive scale. We would call that a personality style that would be somewhat amiable. In other words, you look to keep the peace. You look to have harmony and relationships in your life. And you worry if I say no, that could jeopardize one of those. So these 6 attributes or behaviors would be ways for us to be able to be more assertive. So if you look at, I'm gonna ask a poll question on which one of these 6 you think you can do. That'll be the next question. Being decisive. So really saying, my decision is this. That's what that would look like. Or I am going to do that. Stating opinion more than asking. That would sound something like if, let's say, a doctor says to you, well, we can't see you for 3 months and you need to get in. Well, I would like an appointment as soon as possible, or with your first cancellation. Not just accepting the, well, we can't see you right now, you're gonna have to wait 3 months. And asking question might be, well, would it be possible if I could get on the wait list? No, an assertive person would say, I want to get on the wait list, and can you put me as high as you can on that wait list? That would be one example. Initiating action, not waiting for something to happen to you, but you starting it. You saying, I want to start the conversation with so-and-so about this, or I am gonna, meet with the school on that. Like, we tried to initiate action at the school with the volleyball situation. We didn't just wait to be asked. Eye contact, that's a big one. That helps you gain confidence, but obviously not easy to do. A lot of people have hit and miss eye contact, and sometimes you can think, are they connecting with you or not? So that, so the steady eye contact is one helpful tip. Getting others excited. Get a person to come along with you. If it's scary for you to say what you need to say, do you have a friend or a parent or a caregiver or a trusted adult that you could put right next to you to say, can you come with me? I want to talk, but can you come with me to help generate some excitement with the person that I'm working with or talking to? And then directive, again, is stronger language. I will do, not I hope to, maybe, possibly, someday. It's no, I'm going to do this. All right, so your next poll question has these 6 attributes. So let's see where everybody stands on this. What tactic do you need to do more of is the question to increase your assertiveness. And again, for those of you working for a company somewhere, these are really, really effective strategies. So not just for the young people in the room. All right, let's see where we are with the... Okay. Oh, I'm on the wrong one, sorry. Let me go back. What tactic? Okay, looking at the tactics. Interesting. Would anybody be willing to say on the be decisive, that looks like the winner? What's hard about that for you? Would anybody be willing to share? Is it maybe because there's lots of options? Great, thank you. Let me come back your way.
I think at a basic level, it's just being afraid of making a mistake.
Thank you. It's a great point. Did you relate with that? Those of you that marked that, it's being afraid of making a mistake. It's hard, but thinking about failing fast and redoing is such a great way to, not that you should fail on the really, really big stuff, because if there's a lot at stake, you got to be really careful about that. But trying new things and, okay, what's the worst that could happen? You maybe make somebody mad. Okay, they'll get over it. But you stretched yourself. So if you're finding yourself getting taken advantage of people, again, from thinking about this context, from your treatment, your employer, your school, you're just kind of not being taken seriously, or you need to get a different outcome, maybe that would help you. So thank you for sharing the fear there. All right. So, as I conclude here, what I want you to think about is, what will you do? So thinking about it this morning, do you think to yourself, I don't know how I'm perceived by others? I've worked with people that have been in the work world 30 years and never ever knew they were jerky in Albuquerque. I had to fit that in somewhere. I don't know where I was going to put it, but they were... they were jerky, and they look and they're like a bull in a china shop. It's like everything is a disaster around them. And they're like, what? This is great. What do you mean? It's because no one has been courageous enough along the way in their life to say, hey, by the way, you're jerky in Albuquerque. Stop. Nobody wants to be around you. Notice how you're sitting by yourself. There's a reason for that. Notice how every other table is full. Again, we just have blinders as human beings. We just don't see it sometimes. So is that what maybe stuck with you today? Or is it the second, which is, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to assert myself in a different way with whatever you're facing today. Maybe that for you is the thing that hit home. Whatever it is, if you want to, let's see what it is. I forgot I had this other question. What will you do? It's our last poll question. So jump in there, and I want to see where the room is. How do you guys feel? Okay, pretty split. More on the asserting ourselves in a new way, which is great. Looks like there's a fair amount of self-aware people in here, which is also good. Okay, awesome. So asserting